December 8th, 2025. Welcome to This Week in Waukesha, a civic media production in cooperation with WAUK Radio, 540 AM and 101.1 FM. I was listening on the radio this morning and they're calling it 101.3, but 101.1 still works better. I am your host, Downtown Donnie Browne, and I am coming to you from the comfort of the office of former Alderman Don Paul Browne in our beloved Banting Park home. I am joined as always, by my extraordinary young producer, the mighty Max Martinson. Max, how are you tonight? All right, excellent. And joining me tonight from the other side of the park, closer to Priedemann Park, is my successor in the Common Council, the First District Alderman, the Honorable Mike Chrisien, who's been on the podcast before and has agreed to come on as recently as our cemetery commission meeting tonight.
Yes, thank you. I was
And
honored to be asked.
thank you. Yeah, no, glad you're here. We can kind of talk about the state of the city, especially as we approach the end of another year and, of course, the holiday season. Yeah, Mike, what do you want to talk about first?
One of the biggest things is because it's getting cold outside, and homelessness has always been a big part of my life and giving back those who helped myself and my family out throughout my life. And it's one of my core missions, and it's uh, one of my full-time employers that I have. The city of Waukesha, along with uh, the Housing Action Coalition, is doing something called the Coldest Night of the Year. I don't know if we had it in the city of Waukesha, but it wasn't talked about as soon. But February 28th, around Frame Park, we're going to have this basically. Some of the area homeless shelters and advocates and resources are just basically, it's a homeless awareness, and it's called, believe it or not, Coldest Night of the Year. It's a fundraiser and awareness, and basically it's going to be a walk around of the square frame park along the river. It's a little over a mile and a half. And there's going to be some resources and hot chocolate. And again, to find out more about it, go to Housing Action Coalition, City of Waukesha, and it's February February 28th,
February
2026.
28th.
Yep. And it is not necessarily, it's not sponsored by the city of Waukesha. It's in the city of Waukesha. It's being organized by mainly the Housing Action Coalition and its providers.
Okay. And how did you get involved with the Housing Action Coalition?
There was an opening, and it's appointment by the mayor, and it was a 3-year term. And someone said, "Hey, you help run a homeless shelter, and we're an opening. Are you interested?" And I said, "Yes." And that's essentially how I became involved, because I work at a homeless shelter, and
Good.
I feel I provide some good value to that.
Terrific. Yeah. So obviously a very qualified candidate for the role. And thanks for sharing that. So yeah, just to repeat, on February 28th, it's called the coldest night of the year, and it's intended to raise awareness about the homeless situation in our county and our city, um, especially this time of the year when temperatures can get
Yeah.
pretty low and outdoor,
It is a
existence.
national. It's many
Was part of a
areas. Well,
national.
yeah, it
Okay.
is. Many things are going on at the same time across
Neat.
our nation, and perhaps the world as well.
Sure, sure. And that's at Frame Park.
Yes.
And it's what time does that start?
I do believe it's 5:30. I'm on my device, so I can't read that, but
No
I believe
worries.
it's going to kick off at the Rotary and go around the loop around our park,
Okay.
both
So
sides of the river, between
for those of
Frame
you
and
not as
Rotary.
yeah, for those of you not as familiar with Frame Park, it's the road, on the third base side of the Frame Park baseball stadium is the Rotary building, like right there along the lake. A lot of people, they've been to any baseball games there, especially Waukesha and South and North have their home games there. Um, on some nights, that restroom will be open on the third base side. That's the Rotary building, and that's where this event starts. And they can go online for more information. It's Housing Action Coalition um, dot
Yes,
com.
they'll have a link there, and we're getting some flyers made, and just corporate sponsorship and teams, because they want to have a walk, much like the Alzheimer walk and
Sure.
things like
Sure.
that. And this is one of the first years we're doing it, so we're getting the word out a little bit sooner. And I like how Don always gets baseball in there. And
Yeah.
you mentioned a lake, and believe it or not, that is Saratoga Lake. Most people don't know that Saratoga Lake is in the middle of Fox River there.
Oh, really?
You did call it a lake,
I
by the
called
way,
it a
and
lake, but it was a river. But it turns out it really is a lake.
it
So
is. If you
wow.
look on the live map, it is. It shows up as Saratoga Lake.
Sometimes it pays not to do your homework. Oh, that's hilarious. So interesting, very interesting. Yes. So, but that's great that that's happening. But it seems now in December 8th, that's a long way away. And what else, is the city or the Housing Action Coalition or other forces that you know of, what are they doing during the holidays to help homeless and poor residents and families
A lot
have a
of
nice
it.
holiday season?
There is what's nice about the coalition in the city of Waukesha is the area providers aren't really fighting each other. They work for each other. Uh, there's a lot of restrictions in funding on the state level, in the county level, and national level. So they're just ally resources. If someone has a surplus and someone has a deficit, they'll help each other just with resources, uh, and they basically help each other out. It is a coalition of if someone is struggling, they will help the other just with
Yeah.
resources and knowledge. And basically, we meet several times a month and just help each other with the goal and the mission awareness, resources, citywide. That's where I'm involved, the mayor appointee on the city, and there's also county-wide providers on that, and that's
Very
basically
nice. Cool.
awareness and helping each other out, getting ready for the holidays. It's always a time of joy for many and a sorrow
Yeah.
for others, and
Yeah.
my children early on through Cub Scouts and our church, we would always donate gifts and presents to various homeless shelters that were all in the basement of all the older churches downtown. And
Mm,
they would get 100 cots down there. And
yeah.
it was a huge fire problem.
Yeah.
Well, not a fire problem, but the
Fire
fire
hazard. Yeah.
department said you cannot have 200 cots and
Yeah.
one staircase out of there. That's what I'm referring to. So
Sure.
that's my children got involved, and it was like just like now, it's food, financial, time, talent, and treasures. It's something so simple as a toy, a gift, a card,
Yeah.
even just a simple card. You'll get through this. This stage in your life is only temporary, so
Yeah.
it's real easy to find shelters and women-specific shelters. The Hope Center. I'm not going to name them all. There's a lot
Yeah.
here,
Sure.
but
Sure.
it's easy to find.
It reminds me in back in Ireland where I used to work in Dublin. One of my favorite musicians. Oh gosh, can't even remember his name now. Glenn Hansard. Him and Bono from U2 would do what's called busking, and busking is basically singing outside, like you see a lot of people do, or performing. But they would do that. They'd have the little can out, and all the money they'd raise would go towards one probably the biggest homeless mission in Dublin called Simon, or the website simon.ie. And that would be neat if with all the musical talents we had. If I mean, it's probably late in the game now, but maybe next holiday season we organize some couple artists and do like a Christmas time busk. That could be really neat. Get
That is
people outside.
interesting. We will work on that. I won't be doing any singing for obvious reasons, but
No, no,
I
but
can
yeah,
I can
finding
help.
local artists. Yeah,
Yeah, I can help carry things. There's something.
sure.
The Radio Association has something called the Sleigh Riders. They've been doing that for many years, so I do believe that's a good basis to have.
There's a
Um,
radio association. You said
well, it's local musicians from local bands, local DJs. It's
nice.
just every year they have a fundraiser. It's called Sleigh Riders, and it's
Oh, cool.
Milwaukee's got a lot of Milwaukee area has got a lot of talent, a lot of famous musicians that got discovered here or live here or just come to town for this. Not going to name
Very
any
neat.
names, but it's been going on at least since the '80s and probably longer than that.
Oh, cool. Very good. So, well, I guess now would be a good time to switch gears and talk about what's going on in the city, and anything passed in the council that you think is worth mentioning or that residents
Um,
should be aware of, or
Biggest
Um,
thing was the fire department and their contract negotiation. That was a couple months ago. That was passed, and the police department. This was their longest negotiation that I'm told in history. As long as they've negotiated, and that got passed by their um, representative and police management and common council to make things easier and follow what the fire department is. Rather than negotiating 3 years, it's now a 4 year contract. Who I do believe the city and police are now on the same contract
okay.
schedule.
Wow.
So that's been finalized with council. That was a really big one. We were really
Sure.
hoping to get that taken care of for the police department of things. As I say,
Was there any opposition or concerns specifically that some alders may have addressed?
not really, because police and fire are very unique in our city because it is
Right.
a,
They're fairly autonomous.
well, not only that, but it's a negotiated wage. They have, the city has representation, and the fire and police has representation. So by the time, by the time citizens, and even I'm on the HR, I'm honored to be on the HR team.
Yeah.
By the time we get that, that's already done and negotiated. Now we
So
just
it's more
this
it's a formality then, or a
yes,
legality.
but we
Yeah.
still, common council still controls,
Sure. The purse.
passing and the purse
Yeah.
strings, stuff like that. But it's, by the time, like I said again, by the time it was negotiated for, a month, that's behind closed doors. I'm not invited to that. So that was
Neat.
a big relief to get our city staff and our EMS services all taken care of, because I
Okay.
know both sides really wanted to come up with some resolutions.
Sure.
I think the biggest thing there was the budget was passed, both sides of the budget, the operating budget and the CIP. We're planning getting that ready for 5 years from now.
Okay.
All departments were really looking at all operation costs, from equipment to licensing agreements to staff, part time, who's retiring, do we need to replace that person? So
Right.
this is I went to the mayor's breakfast, celebrate Waukesha. Paul Farrell spoke, and the county is facing very similar things:
Sure.
budget concerns, staffing concern, costs, fuel, labor, insurance, equipment, everything that the city is facing, the county's facing as well.
Sure. Sure.
As far as other things we passed, referral wise, there's some schools that have still have no parking signs up for schools, and the school's been closed 3-4 years. I think I'm not going to say the names of the schools, but they're working on that referral, looking at that, looking at some stop signs. So as far as referral wise, it's a lot of referrals to buildings and grounds, just updating parking signs, considering some stop signs for um, various intersections that might be slightly or busier than
Sure.
normal because all the construction. Everyone is feeling the, I don't know, feeling the congestion of our city bypass on the east side
Sure.
of our city. So a lot of artillery, I don't know, whatever, side streets. People
Arteries.
that would
Yeah.
normally take
Sure.
the bypass
Yeah.
on Arcadian, Broadway, Main Street, and then various other north south streets. So
Right.
that's a big one.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. What what's on the agenda, do you think, for 2026 Q1 that you know about, or that maybe you might be looking to
A
start up?
lot of well, a lot of the things we're talking about, again, the things that I'm honored to be on, the committees I'm on, is just, again, the budget process can't be 2 months. August, September, October. It's
Right.
it starts. We just finished budget, but we have to start talking about it. And what
Yeah. Are you?
uh,
Did you say you're on finance committee?
I am not on
Okay.
finance. No, I am not. But I go to as many as I can because
Yeah, that's
it's
an important one. I served on it for a while.
yeah. But
So
the committees I do serve on, we still have budgets. We still have staffing issues. Just everything that every other city department
what kind of
has.
staffing issues? Like shortage or
Well, there is a huge shortage, both seasonal and on the professional side. Obviously, there's always a this time of year snowplow drivers. There's
yeah,
always a shortage of snowplow drivers, but you go to the city of Waukesha website and you look at all the employment
yeah.
opportunities from engineering department, forestry, parks, both part time and
Like
seasonal,
forestry always had
and
a
forestry. Last I
vacancies.
heard,
A lot of them,
I
yeah.
think we are down three arborists. I mean, don't quote me on that. I haven't
That's actually
looked at a
pretty good
while.
compared to years past, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
I
So
I don't know because one, I can't I can't work for the city because I already do work for the city,
yeah,
and I'm not an arborist.
yeah,
I enjoy operating chainsaws, but I have no
yeah.
scientific gift of, oh, you
Sure.
shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Has Mary Berg's role been replaced yet? She was one of
Uh,
the directors at the
no, well,
Parks and Rec, or she was in a
I've not
manager
seen
role.
I've not seen her at a meeting in a while.
Because she's retired. That's why. Yeah.
I think she still is active
Okay.
because I heard about her retirement ceremony at
Yeah.
City Hall, and I do believe she still has some part with Park and Recs.
Okay. She's wonderful, and
Yes,
those are some big shoes to fill. But I wonder because it seems to me the big talk around the city is um, that there is a, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that there's a budget deficit, and people claim they're paying more in taxes. There's more traffic and parking tickets given out. That there's this, and again, these are all perceptions, and people's perceptions, unfortunately, are the realities. Like what?
right. I can
Um,
explain a little of that. Some of
sure.
my background. One is I have a degree in police science. I've been
Yeah,
in trucking and maintenance my entire life, but I wanted to be a motorcycle cop when I grew up. But I did.
because of chips, right?
That
Are you old
is,
enough to remember chips?
I am.
Okay.
Right now I'm a motorcyclist, but I
Yeah,
don't have a badge.
yeah,
And anyways, I have a degree in it, but basically the whole idea of parking enforcement is not a generator of
yeah,
income because by the time you look at the cost of the paperwork, the city
yeah.
staff, the police car, the
That's kind
wage,
of what I thought.
all that stuff, it's every ticket written is it's not a moneymaker. In fact,
There's a cost
recently
against it. Yeah,
we
probably why.
just raised our ordinances about a couple months ago,
Sure.
and it was not the state. The state binds us on how much we can
Okay.
raise our our fees and ordinances. I'm not on that side of the law, but
Sure.
it
Yeah.
is definitely
Okay.
not a moneymaker to be given a $122
Okay. No, I'm glad
citation.
you addressed that because that's good. That's something I can kind of
No,
share.
that's
But the other
but
thing too is though is just with again with this deficit or perceived deficit.
yeah.
Do you feel pretty good about the city's plan moving forward in the long term?
Yes,
To
we're starting it again right now. There's going to be three or four. We did this a couple years ago. So check with your alderman and the city
yeah,
website. We are going to have three or four uh, open meetings where we need people to show up and say, I like this resource. I want you to spend your money on this. I don't like this resource.
yeah,
Cut back. Fire,
mm,
police, EMS, ambulance. That's people's top
yeah,
four. So
yeah,
what are we looking at? The other things that we're going to
yeah,
spend money on or not spend. We have to cut something. We have to cut back spending.
yeah,
For right next couple of years we're good, but 3 years, 4 years, five
yeah.
years from now we're in millions of dollars of deficit.
Sure. Yeah, because I remember when I was alderman, one of the complaints out here is people would be upset that they feel that the city is in the event planning business. When you look at all the events, especially from Parks and Rec, um, my response to that though is a lot of the events that the city organizes and manages are very well done, and the people, Mary Berg being one of them, Joanne Adamaki, top shelf people across the board. Um, will there be? Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to continue this conversation and more city business in the second part of our podcast. So please stick around, everybody. I know Alderman Mike Chrisien, my successor in the first district, will be sticking around. And thanks everybody for listening in. And again, go use the restroom if you have to. Get a favorite beverage, but be sure to join us for the next for podcast 2 here on December 8th on This Week in Waukesha. Thank you.